Have you ever seen a kid in the grocery store or at a restaurant just throwing a tantrum, screaming their head off? I'm sure you have. And how did you notice that the parents responded? Well, I always feel so much compassion for parents of small children because it can be exasperating trying to do the best for our kids without losing our temper. When I see parents scream, berate, or even hit their child, when it's clear that the child is hungry or tired, I really feel sad, and I wish that I could just give them a hug, too. Like, we realize that the child needs maybe a bottle and a snuggle, and maybe so does the parent, too. The idea of becoming a conscious parent, conscious or aware of how our energy and behavior and even our mindset impacts our children, is on everyone's mind today. Especially as the culture has shifted. Spanking your child in public could get you arrested and your children taken away from you. Well, beyond the legal ramifications, we know that when children are reprimanded or disciplined harshly for just being human, it has lasting ill effects. Well, I recently read a great blog post by Dr. Shefali. She's the brilliant clinical psychologist, international speaker, and author of the award-winning book, The Conscious Parent. And I love her because, like me, she blends Eastern mindfulness with Western psychology, integrating wisdom from both traditions. Well, her book, The Conscious Parent, truly revolutionizes the parenting journey, and it allows us to transform our relationship with our children. She says that if your child is out there having a meltdown, the number one mistake that many parents do is say something like, use your words. Well, we know that New Age parents especially think that they're being highly evolved when they tell their kids to use their words. But this is the absolute wrong thing to tell a kid who's in the middle of an emotional flood. Dr. Shefali says the last thing that this child can do at moments like that is use their literary skills, their literacy skills. And this is especially true for kids who are under the age of 6. So when we tell them to use their words, we frustrate them to no end because this is not the mental state that they are naturally in. And they feel controlled by us even more. And this causes them to kick and scream even louder. So what do you do instead? If your kid is overwhelmed by their big feelings, it's crucial that you enter into their presence with a state of detached yet calm energy. Like, we need to show them that we are there for them without trying to control them or being too domineering. Dr. Shefali says that, like a tall mountain, we need to show them that we can withstand their torrential thunders and their gusty winds. And this is the most important thing we can do. It's just moving toward them with this calmness, this stillness, and full-on presence. And try to hold them close to you, if they'll let you. When our children see us relate to them with such great empathy in our eyes, they will naturally absorb our strong yet silent energy. And slowly, they'll be able to find their own way out of the dungeon of terror. And the moment that they sense us controlling them, that's when they will resist and pump their tantrum with more gusto. So today's guest is a special friend of mine from Denmark, Gitte Winther. And we're going to build upon the idea of being present, calm, and centered. Gitte says that we can calm ourselves down and get into a loving vibe, which your child will immediately pick up on. In fact, she believes that we need to parent ourselves before we parent our child. Gitte's book, The Children's Meditations in My Heart, has helped thousands of children sleep. The book contains 4 short stories to share with your children, to guide your child into their heartland and teach your child how to fill their heart with love. The turning point, Gitte says, is when you understand that it isn't your child giving you a hard time. It's actually you giving your child a hard time. And this nightmare of bedtime routines is generally a cry for help. So, becoming aware of your energy and what you radiate is key. So this simple approach to teaching mindfulness and meditation has lasting effects on family harmony and well-being. In fact, for nearly 3 decades, researchers have confirmed that even just a few weeks of practicing meditation can shape and mold our brains, providing visible proof that our quiet time actually has an effect on the most important organ in our bodies. For example, Harvard researchers showed that in as little as 8 weeks, practicing mindfulness meditation increased the gray matter in the hippocampus, which is responsible for learning, memory, and emotional regulation, in addition to dampening stress. Plus, with regular meditation, decreased gray matter in the amygdala, which is what initiates our fight, flight, freeze response, it improves our emotional stability. The other effects of meditation on the brain include enhanced empathy and compassion. In addition, researchers at several different universities showed that yogic stretching, breathing, and meditation can increase the thickness of the insula, which improves our ability to focus and complete complex tasks, as well as improve our pain tolerance. And studies show that not only do we see immediate benefits of increased calm, less anxiety and stress, but we also receive lasting benefits of lower risk for depression, heart disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's dementia, just to name a few. Well, I was first attracted to meditation in college to help me make sense of the overflow of creative ideas swirling around in my head. Now, it wasn't quite ADD, but it was close. Now, as a pre-med student who was also managing our university TV station, performing in community theater, playing trumpet in the church choir, my head was always full. And in fact, I often had these amazing ideas, or at least I thought they were amazing, floating around in my mind. So learning meditation allowed me to gain peaceful clarity to bring those ideas to life. For me, my intuition also brings me visions and feelings, like emotional and actual physical sensations. I have intuitive dreams, and sometimes I even get a flash or a thought or a word or something that I just know. It could be about my clients, a book I'm writing, or even my family, even if they're halfway around the world. In fact, it first came up for me in my childhood, where I would suddenly know that something was going to happen before it happened. Now, growing up, I didn't really know what to do with that kind of information or whether I could trust it. So I actually shut it off for many years. Well, if you fast forward to just a few years ago, I spent some time with Deepak Chopra at his center in California. It was interesting because he told me about these meditation masters in India who gained superpowers called siddhis, like levitation, walking through walls, or ESP. And they gain these superpowers through meditation. Well, I was intrigued, to say the least. When I was with Deepak, he also told me that he could get an entire book kind of downloaded into his brain through meditation, that he just would later sit down and write, or he could dictate it. Companies like Google and even Oprah's Harpo Studios offer classes for employees who want to learn how to meditate, because it helps people be more productive and happier. In fact, Padmasee Warrior from Cisco said her daily meditation practice is almost like a reboot for your brain and your soul. So I teach people how meditation can help them improve and literally protect your health and your emotional fitness too. In one of my TEDx presentations, I shared a process for creating more calm and confidence, reducing stress and anxiety, building up resilience, and promoting faster healing and recovery. I call it the attunement process. We know that clinical data shows that practicing mindfulness meditation can also help reduce depression, pain, and improve our recovery from trauma or burnout. So when you look at the research studies that have proved that when practiced for as little as just 12 minutes a day, I'm not asking you to do a lot. 12 minutes is a tiny amount. These research studies have shown that 12 minutes a day in meditation helps us to rewire and mold the brain, to improve our concentration, memory, sleep, mood, sexual responsiveness, and performance in complex tasks. Now, isn't that all stuff that you want? you know that it is. You can also learn to clear the chaos from your mind and enhance your creativity and intuitive insight. Take advantage of the soul and science of compassion. Compassion is defined as the heartfelt desire that others be free from suffering. I invite you to join me for a free 21-day challenge to see what benefits you gain from practicing the compassion meditation with people all around the world. This free 21-day program provides you with daily inspiring quotes, affirmations, and guided meditations to help you develop more compassion, especially toward yourself. Bathe your heart and brain in happy chemicals for 21 days and change the world, starting with you today. Visit attunementmeditation.com/compassion. So what do you do when you lose your cool or you feel yourself unraveling? I mean, besides parenting, we can feel stress in a whole variety of situations. For me, becoming irritable, snappy, and tired are just a few of the signs of stress. But I also found that with caregiver fatigue. And it really prompted me to step up my game and practice what I preach a couple of years ago when I took over the full-time care of my mother, who has Alzheimer's disease. I had to pull out every strategy that I know to kind of lower my stress response and avoid burnout. Recently, I shared a post on 7 strategies to lower stress and increase resilience. And they're all good resilience boosters for everyone, but particularly helpful for caregivers to remember. So you can check that out online here at America Out Loud. I definitely noticed that as I was sleep deprived, because my mother wasn't sleeping well at night, well, I mean, she doesn't sleep in the daytime either, I found that she would spend day and night talking to imaginary patients in her medical clinic. I mean, as my mother was a physician, and she was so proud to be sought after for much more than prescriptions and medical exams. She was really the go-to doc for insight and inspiration for better living. She was known to dispense advice on relationships, self-esteem, and even career planning. But at the age of 82, all of the complaints that she had, about not being able to see very well or her stiff joints, not being able to counsel and help people was ranked as high as not being able to see. While the hallucinations that she was expressing are really common in people with dementia, in my mom's case, I wondered if her hallucinations were a self-soothing mechanism to basically ease her sense of loss of not being able to work as a doctor anymore. And that feeling of uselessness due to a lack of productivity is one that I know very well. I mean, I first encountered that sense of loss during the first few months of being a mother. And it seemed that I went from being highly functional and productive to becoming a breastfeeding on-demand bottle washer and diaper changer. So I can totally empathize with what my mom feels. But it's truly heartbreaking to feel that what you do best, that which you have enjoyed with great pride, is no longer an option. So while I recognize that my own shift toward being a full-time caretaker was associated with a certain loss of my personal freedom, I'm really filled with compassion knowing that for me, it's temporary, but for Mom, it's not. But that lack of sleep really took a toll on me, and I would notice that my thoughts would really drift toward the dark side. And responding with more negativity feels like a really convenient thing to do when there's these unexpected phone calls, or I need to run to the grocery store, or explaining for the 20th time in the last hour that no, You're not in America anymore, Mom. You're in France. It's easy to get irritable. And in fact, experts say that recognizing signs of caregiver burnout is the first step. And when it comes to resilience and stress relieving strategies, you need to keep it in mind. Because burnout and stress-related illness are really common for people who are taking care of, say, elderly parents or terminally ill patients, and anyone with special needs. So in addition to physical depletion, which we all have, it's the emotional symptoms that are cited most for caregiver overwhelm and burnout. So we're talking about feeling isolated, helpless, and overburdened. But many of us are afraid to voice these tender feelings out of fear of judgment. In my case, I felt guilty. It was like, how can I complain when, I can do something about my issues? It'll go away eventually. But for Mom, they wouldn't. So I pretty much stayed silent, even though all of the experts recommend that you express and not repress. So while it is tempting to stay silent, everyone in caregiving explains that we must talk about our experiences, even the negative emotions we feel, and venting can actually help us to lower the stress response. And it also allows others the chance to be there for us. So while it can be difficult to appear, quote unquote, weak to other people, we have to be mindful that repressing our challenging emotions makes us more vulnerable to exploding later. And clinical psychologists explain that when we identify or name our stressful emotions, we actually engage a part of the brain that's associated with rational thinking, the prefrontal cortex. And this part of the brain typically goes offline when we're stressed, when the little lower reptilian brain engages in the fight or flight response. So I really love Dan Siegel, who is the author of Mindsight and Brainstorm, The Power and Purpose of the Teenage Brain. He calls his teaching technique the name it to tame it technique. And he explains that when we can integrate the left and the right hemispheres of the brain to calm us down, it really works. So a couple of years ago, I shared at a TEDx presentation that the first step of my attunement meditation that I teach for reducing stress and anxiety is we become consciously aware of our feelings and emotions. And my patients are often surprised at just how much more space and control they feel when they call out their feelings rather than stuff them away. And controlling in the moment is gained little by little. So we really have to practice. So today's guest is Gitte Winther, and she's going to help us. Gitte is a Danish writer, life coach, energy mentor, mindfulness instructor, and light worker. She's on a mission to help parents help their children to thrive through child meditation. And Gitte helps parents become aware of their own energy and what they radiate, and teaches parents to always parent themselves first before they parent their children. Gitte is also founder of the Momo Academy, with a mission to help Danish schools offer mindfulness to the pupils as part of their education. She also coaches parents and she does workshops. So you can check out her blog at roomforreflection.com. And you can always keep up on her latest news for child meditation and mindfulness. I do hope you enjoy the interview. Now, if you happen to have questions or want to suggest other topics of interest for the show, send an email to Dr. Andrea at americaoutloud.com. When we think about the way that we are going to parent our children, we typically think we've got to have it all figured out, right? Well, in the new age of conscious parenting, we're allowed to admit that we don't always have everything figured out. We can actually learn on the fly, but most importantly, we can really be fully present with our children so that they learn from us, they learn to be even better than us, and they grow up to be fully functional adults. Well, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart because I don't know about you, but I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of consciousness in my family when I was growing up. Not that I wasn't loved, I definitely was, but the idea of questioning what we do, why we do it, and even the tone of voice that we say things in, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of forethought. It was kind of like, I'm the parent, do what I want. And what I realized when I became a parent was there's a whole different approach. Some of us are into attachment parenting, whatever you want to call it, this idea about being conscious, present, and heart-centered can make all the difference. Well, today's guest is truly passionate about sharing the essence of mindfulness and meditation with children. Because let's face it, too many children today are living stressful lives, and it's really incumbent upon us as parents to help them thrive. So today's guest, Gita Winter, helps parents train their children to find their own inner resources and especially to get to know the beauty of their hearts. It's all about this heart power. So rather than forcing our kids to do what we want, we can just create this beautiful resonance within our household. Now, especially at bedtime, I don't know if you've ever dealt with a kid who was being fussy around bedtime and you're thinking, oh my God, just please go to sleep. It's exasperating. But sometimes the more stressful we are as parents, the more the child's energy gets riled up. Well, we've got some very, very simple, practical, and effective techniques to help you help your child sleep and to create more harmony in your household. So, Gita Winter, the author of The Children's Meditations in My Heart. So good to have you here. Thank you for being here, Gita.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
It is. Your books are just so beautiful. And I love that it's really a physical representation of what you're all about. I know that you are all about tapping into love and sharing love with the world. So, did you always imagine that you would write children's books?
Well, I dreamt of it at least. I remember when I was in fifth grade, I took a job at the school library so I could get a hold of all the new books coming in. So I'd be the first to get a hold of all the new books. So I was a bit of a book nerd already when I was 10 or 11 years old. So back then I used to dream that one day one of my books would be in the school library.
Oh.
And today they are.
And today they are. That is awesome. Well, I know that you've also been really conscious in the way that you parent. And one of the things that we've talked about before is how stressed out children are, especially in this day and age when we've got technology and they've got these busy lives with so many activities. So what do you think is a way for parents to understand the stress that their child might be under?
Well, the best way is to understand the level of stress that we are facing as parents ourselves. And every parent, and I don't know any parent who doesn't know what stress feels like, because children come with a great deal of challenges. And we have to face a lot of things with our careers and coming home from school and cooking dinner and what actually makes me, I also work as a life coach, and I coach a lot of parents also in this matter. And what actually makes me very sad is often my clients come to me and say, I'm so sad that it's actually my children who are stressing me out. And what I always say is that it's not, they're the latest challenge that had come into your life, but it's the sum of all the challenges that you're facing in life that is giving you a stressful life right now, but the children are not the cause of it. So I think that most parents can relate to what stress in the everyday life feels like. And then to me, I imagine that it's just double up for a child feeling that kind of emotions, because as adults, we do have some kind of tools and we do have some knowledge of what stress is, even if it's limited. But children, they're just like, what's going on in my body? And I don't feel very well. And now I just feel like screaming, or running around, or I'm it's like out of my body experience. I have no idea what's going on, and please help me. So a lot of these cry outs, a lot of these emotional outbursts, and what we can see in children are actually just cries for help. Help me get rid of this feeling in my body of stress.
I think that's one of the things that just came to mind, because you're putting words to what a child might say, like, "Oh, I feel like I need to run around and scream," but I don't imagine they actually have that in their mind. They just run around and scream. It's their way of acting out the uncomfortable feelings that they have. And you know what that brings to mind? It brings to mind when you say that these parents are saying, "My kids are stressing me out." It's like this misplacement of, I don't want to say the word blame, but it sounds like blame. And it makes me really think about this question of, and I know you know this as well, is your child giving you a hard time, or are you giving your child a hard time? So let's talk about that, because I know it really ties into the work that you do with parents and kids.
Well, that's one of my main questions to ask any client that I work with, or any parent who contact me after having read my books. That's actually the key here. So you're spot on with this question, because once we realize that our children are just mirrors of our energy, then we sort of get the tools to understand how we can also change things. So, in my opinion, in many circumstances, the child is not giving you a hard time. Either you are actually giving your child a hard time, or the way you have structured your everyday living or the activities going on at school is giving your child a hard time. So no child likes to act out. No child likes to scream. No child likes to beat somebody up or kick somebody, or, all these types of things that we see in many children today. And we sort of, that's the way my child is. He's giving me a hard time. She's going crazy at school. I don't know what to do. And it's, for many parents who say these things, it's more a symptom of not knowing what to do. Like it's so challenging. And like you said, we have children, but there is no this is how you parent. When you get a child, there's no instructions following. So a lot of the stuff we do, we are simply not conscious of. And that's my mission, is to help parents become more conscious of what they radiate when they parent.
I love that. It's so true. I wish we had a manual. I definitely wish I had that. But what you're saying really resonates with me, because what I noticed with Sienna is she is such a sponge, and she's so empathic and intuitive. She picks up on my energy. So I learned very quickly, even when she was just a tiny baby, that if I came in with an energy of stress or frustration or exasperation, she would pick up on that and she would become more agitated. So it was like she wasn't giving me a hard time. She was like, "Hey, you're giving me a hard time." And so really learning to manage my own energy was like my number one priority. So, it forced me to do all my meditation and deep breathing and going on walks to just really get rid of any of that stressful, crazy, crazy, crazy energy. And so that's one of the things that you talk about, is that you help parents learn how to tap into the power of their own heart to create that sense of harmony, so that vibe is what you transmit to your children, instead of this control vibe or this disapproving vibe when they're doing something. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes. So what I learned also from becoming a parent was that sometimes when my children were young, I couldn't control my temper, and I would be angry, or I would even scream. And today I wish I had known all that I know today, and it would actually even make me want to have another baby, just to try to raise a baby knowing all these things.
Oh my gosh.
But, having just turned 40, I think I'm going to just go with my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
But what I felt inside after having yelled at my children, and what I actually saw in their eyes when I was full of temper, was frightening for me. And that was actually my wake up call that that's not the parent I want to be. And I know that any parent who is listening to this don't want to be that parent, but it's just hard if we don't know how to, parent ourselves. So that's what I say. We need to learn how to parent ourselves before we parent our children. So the first thing is just to become conscious of, is this a good time for me to parent? So before you talk about why didn't you do the dishes, or why didn't you do your homework, or la 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 la, all the things that we could say, we just check in and we say, would this be a good time? Am I at a good place to actually parent right now? And if we are not, so if we come home from work and we're busy, busy, busy all day, and we've grocery bags in our arms and we're coming in and everything is stressful, that might not be the time to talk about the dishes. Or, whatever homework hasn't been done or laundry is still laying around. So just check in and say, okay, would this be a good time for me to parent? Because what we know is that the more temper we have when we parent, the less the children hear. So research has actually shown that the more calm we are, the more they hear. So a lot of stuff that's going on in households where things are just repeating themselves and parents are just yelling, yelling, yelling every day, we actually know that there is quite a big risk that the children are not hearing any of it. So it's a waste of energy, and it brings you in a bad mood, and it's stressful for your children. So the first thing is to just stop up and say, am I at a good place now to parent? And if not, then wait. Those dirty laundries on the floor can wait till you feel better. So go into the kitchen, get rid of the grocery shops, bags, and just sit down and breathe and just find the good place in you. And then you can start being with your children, or just take a break if you don't feel like you can be the parent you want to be.
I do that. I literally will just say, okay, I need a timeout. Mommy's just going to go have a little meditation moment where I can breathe and kind of calm down. I started that very early on because I used to feel guilty if I wasn't like 100% present. I just felt like, oh, I have to be here all the time. And I literally would feel guilty if I wanted to take a long shower or I wanted to take a nap. But then I realized my mental health is like her mental health. So if I'm in a good place, she's going to be in a good place. And of course, it was hilarious that within, by the time she was really speaking, she would notice my energy and she'd say, Mommy, do you need to go have a meditation moment? I'm like, oh, great. But I like this concept that you're talking about, which I think some people might find a bit radical, and that is parenting ourselves. Because a lot of people were grown up thinking that if you're the parent, you have to be a know-it-all, you have to be competent, and and this idea that we also need some parenting or reparenting, as it were. So talk to me about that. So one of the things you say is just first checking in to see if we're in a good place, and if not, going and calming down. What are other ways that we can parent ourselves?
I think one of the easiest ways to get started on this is to acknowledge that we all have an inner child inside of us. So it can be hard if your children are screaming and everything is a mess and you're coming home and, a busy day, it can be hard to take 5 minutes for you because your children need you. But you have an inner child inside of you who's been also very stressed out all day long. So to take care of this inner child first is, for many of my clients, the best way to get started, to know that I have a child inside as well. So it can be easier to nurture that inner child that we have inside, that we all just children inside. That's what's actually wonderful about this whole spiritual journey is to figure out that we don't have to be so adult all the time. We don't have to have it figured out. Like you say, we are just children on a journey still, even though we have this adult body. So I often advise my clients to get to know their inner child and then start parent the child. And that child is much easier to understand that this child might need a nap now, or a shower, or something that will comfort. And then just be a little patient. Because once you start doing it in this way and you have a little patience, you will see, like you did, Dr. Andrea, that it will change over time. Like you would see that okay, my child is responding very differently now, and we can actually talk about the laundry, or we can actually talk about the homework, and I can actually help my child do the homework because I'm not all stressed out.
Hmm.
A little patience.
Yeah, I find that that's the key for me. Being patient with myself, with the process, and letting go of this idea that I have to be so perfect. Well, I'd really like to explore some of what this book has done for families around the world. So when we come back, I'd like to explore why our children are not sleeping as much as they should be in today's crazy busy world, and what we as parents can do to help our children sleep better so that they're getting restored and nourished, and most importantly, to make the bedtime routine a peaceful, stress-free routine. So we'll be right back. You're watching Liberate Your Authentic Self with me, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Check out the live version of this show, where I answer your questions in real time. Visit facebook.com/Dr. Andrea Pennington. So with me today is Gita Winter. She is the author of The Children's Meditations, In My Heart. And one of the things that I absolutely love about the book is all of the practical advice, obviously, but how you've also woven in what you actually do, like singing this little song that your heart is filled with love. I love that. So tell me, why do you think so many parents struggle at bedtime? And we've talked about this before, obviously, about the stress that we feel when our little one is like popping out of bed all the time. Talk to me about that.
Well, there are many reasons why children won't sleep today, and we know from research that children in general today sleep 1 hour less than we did 25 years ago. And we also know that children really need this sleep. So the latest research coming out is showing that children who in general sleep too little can show the same symptoms that we see in children with ADHD. Not to say that if you don't sleep enough, then you'll develop ADHD, or not to say that a lot of the children who have ADHD should just sleep more and it'll go away. That's not where I'm going. But we also know that sleep is helping children with ADHD. So what this research can show us is that the way, like lack of sleep over time, can develop some of these symptoms that make children more hyperactive. And I actually have a little bottle here, and I don't know if you can you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice
So
and
I have this bottle with me with pink liquid and a little glitter inside. And if you imagine that I'm shaking the bottle and you see all this glitter in the bottle, that's actually the busy mind. So what we see is just a lot of thoughts racing through the mind of the child at bedtime, just trying to cope with all the impressions that the child has been facing all throughout the day, and emotions. And, it's just, I don't think that our children are any more fragile than we were when we were born. I just think the world is on speed. I actually just think that everything is spinning too quickly. And that means that they have to work much harder to cope with all the impressions. And that's what we do before we sleep. We just sort of wind down the day. And it's just very busy for our children to do that because they get so many impressions. So what we need to do is, and if we see this bottle, we see, and I hold it still, then all this glitter will fall down into the bottom of the bottle. And we need to sort of calm the mind. And what I find is difficult for parents is to just find ways to help their children get rid of all these thoughts and emotions around bedtime, and they are keeping the child awake.
And so what sort of ritual would you put in place then and even just to teach the child that it's okay? You did have a lot of stuff going on today. There's the busyness of the day. Now we're in the family unit, and you might also even be thinking about tomorrow in school. So is there a ritual that you like?
So in our household, we have all screens turned out 2 hours before bedtime to stop the overload of impressions.
So all screens means all televisions, cell phones, tablets, anything that's got some, digital or magnetic radiation. Yeah,
Yes.
nice.
I mean, the radiation is one thing, but all the impressions
Yeah.
just banging at there. So it's just make it calm down a little bit. And you can have your child if it's a big problem around your house, it's a good time to take a warm bath and maybe even do a gentle massage after the bath. Just signalize to your child that we're slowing down. So I'm helping you slow down time now. It's been busy all day, but now I'm here and I'm helping you slow down. So that means that we also need to slow down ourselves.
Yeah.
So we slow down before our children's bedtime, and we also need to do this before our own bedtime. So a lot of parents have a hard time sleeping as well. So that would be the same for them. Turn off the screens 2 hours before and start getting your body into, okay, we're going to bed. You know, with all the artificial lights and all the screens and all these things going on, we can keep awake forever. We have lots of people who say, hey, I can get by with 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Mm-mm.
Yeah, the consequences of that.
Yeah.
Like we know as adults what happens to us. We can push it for a while, but over time we don't bounce back as well and we don't have that sharp focus. So our kids definitely need to have that restorative sleep. So then by having 2 hours of no screen time, moving into either a warm bath, maybe a nice massage. So it's just this allowing that busy mind, those busy particles to just settle.
Yes.
And then you talk also about, obviously in the book, about getting into the heart. And
Yes.
I love the beautiful imagery that you teach children because why not? At bedtime, you know, many of us are used to fantasies and bedtime stories. So why not use the power of the imagination, you know, as it relates to our own power to tap into the heart? So tell me about that.
Yes. So what I find is that when we teach our children meditation and mindfulness in a combination, so we can, in the meditations in the book, I've included sort of a body scan that we know from mindfulness. So you sort of direct the attention away from the brain and into the shoulders and arms and stomach and legs, down to the toes. So you start to direct the child's attention down in the body, and then you open up to the heart. And fortunately, our children are very good at meditating because they haven't been in brainland as long as we have. So they actually often are in heartland, as I like to call it. So they have a much easier time connecting to their hearts than we do. So just, you know, have faith in your child that they would know how to do this because they are actually much better at meditating than we are. That's what I find, at least. It's much easier to teach a child than an adult. So just go with it. There is a lot of guidance in the book, and there are a lot of techniques to go about it, and just follow it slowly, calm, breathe, have a loving energy, and just guide your child into this special place in his or her heart, and just let the whole story evolve from the heart.
And so you've been teaching this one-on-one, you do workshops, and the book is traveling around the world in multiple languages. Congratulations, by the way, it's fabulous. So tell me, what has been the feedback from families who've started implementing these techniques?
So one of the first things that surprised me was the age range, like how old are the children benefiting from the book. So in the beginning, I said, well, then they probably need to be 3 years old to get the concept of a cloud and a mountain. But then I heard of prenatal classes where pregnant women would connect to their child in the womb through these techniques and just, you know, feel the connection of the child, especially for some of the parents who had a hard time like realizing that they were pregnant. You know, they can be like a delay in this whole emotional journey of becoming a parent. Yeah. So that has helped a lot of, and those would be unborn children, right? And then there are babies benefiting from having a calm parent, and then the whole kindergarten school age, and then all the way up to children 20 years old who love to hear about the family love and how much the parents love their children. So that was my first surprise, was just that I even had an adult coming to me and say, I want to have my old mother at the age of 80 read this to me. So I thought that was funny. And I knowing how I've come about to write the meditations, I was taught the meditations in class when I was trained to be a healer and an energy mentor. And those weren't for children back then. And I have sort of taken them to a child language. I have translated it into a child language and developed some storylines around it. So of course it goes for adults as well. So that was the first surprise. And then the next surprise was the effect of the book in so many families, going from 2 or 3 hours of bedtime nightmare to 10 or 15 minutes. That has been, I've heard so many stories of parents just, and even from the first day they read the stories, they have just changed the whole bedtime routine.
So what is it that you have on the horizon? What's next for you?
Well, in Danish, I have just published a new book, and I'm happy to with more meditations. So I'm happy to translate them to English in the fall and share them with all my international readers. So that's exciting. That's also about energy and getting to know our energies.
And what about, can we see you live anywhere soon?
Yes, well, I'm live often on my Facebook, Room for Reflection International. So I'm sending live. There's a lot of blogs on my website, roomforreflection.com, and yeah, different places.
So for those of us that want to get started right away, obviously we can go to roomforreflection.com to purchase the book. Not only is it in this beautiful, lovingly illustrated hardcover book, but you can also get it digitally on Kindle and so on. But if we wanted to get started right away, how would you recommend that we, create that vibe of love and harmony today and even throughout the day? Because it's really not just for bedtime, is it?
No. And there is a very important point that I want to make here, is that there are a lot of parents who write to me and say, wow, your book is magical. It has worked magic in our homes. And I just want to thank you so much. And what I often reply is that the book is great and I love the book, but it's the shift in the energy in the parent that's magical. And I really want for parents, when you read the book and it's going well, I want you to take ownership of the joy that you're making a difference and that you're changing routines back home. The more you own this change in the way you parent, the easier it becomes for you to do it just more and more and more. So once you see the effect, the change in your energy has for your child at bedtime, when you start to become more calm and loving and you stay calm and loving while you read the book, even though your child is spinning around or doesn't want to close his eyes or whatever the challenge could be, you stay calm. And once you see the effect it has on your child's sleep, you can just start implementing it like all day long. And you just start to feel, okay, it's like we just said in the beginning of this interview, it's what I radiate that actually has the most profound effect on my child. So even if you didn't have the book, just trying to play a little bit with your energy and become more conscious of where you are when you parent. And if you have a good day of parenting, you say, okay, I was maybe calmer today than I was yesterday when it was a bad day of parenting. So just become conscious of what's going on is the first step.
And I would imagine that you would also recommend that we just take it easy with ourselves.
Yes.
If we try and we don't quite get it right,
No.
have some compassion for yourself.
Yes, and what happens when we start to do this on our own, and for many parents, their children will teach them, because once the parents see what's going on in the children's lives after they start meditating, they're like, oh, I want to have this. I also want to have self-love. I also want to feel these emotions inside of me like my child. And then the child becomes the teacher. And I think that's so beautiful. And what happens once we connect to our hearts and start to live a more heart-based living is that many of the answers that we don't think we can find when we parent will come naturally to us because they come out of love. So what we can always ask ourselves if we have a hard time with a child is, what would love do right now? What would love do right now? What would love's approach to this problem be? And often it's just to give a hug and, just tell your child that you love the child. And often the reaction of the child is a cry for help. So I'm here for you. I'm holding you. I love you. So that's what love would often do.
That's a beautiful reminder. That's so beautiful, because I like it because it's simple, but it's also about just being authentic. I remember once I was really, really feeling my own frustration level getting higher, and Sienna was in the bath, and I knew I needed to deliver a message, and kind of like you suggested, I did check in with myself to say, am I ready to parent? And I knew I wasn't. So what I did is I just sort of put on a little fake face and a fake smile, and then I delivered what I wanted to, and I worked so hard to try to make it sweet and not, zinging, because I know that the way my tone of voice or my facial expression can be really harsh, like Sienna would pick it up right away. And so I thought I did a good job. And after I finished speaking to her, she's in the bath and she looked up at me and she said, "Mommy, you're talking to me like you don't know me." Mm. And I was like, oh. So when you say our children teach us, it was like, it really taught me, like, you know what? Being fake, that's not going to work.
No.
And now what I do is I just sink into my heart, and I'm honest and I'm vulnerable. And if I'm like, you know what? I'm really struggling right now, Sienna. I think I just need to take a time out. She's so much more appreciative of that, of the honesty in it. And I think it's also good because I'm also teaching her that it's okay. If you're having an emotional moment, you don't have to like put on a fake face and, stay around everyone just because you think that's what's expected of you. You can just admit that you're feeling, whatever it is you're feeling, and deal with it in a way that's best for you. And that seems to work for us. And then when I'm ready or when she's ready, we come out, we have a little hug, we process. But I like what you're talking about sinking into the heart and just being real and authentic, and the right answers will come.
Yes, and I love your description here, because that's actually, in the long term, that's the output of going through these changes in the way you parent, is that once you start parent yourself, the way you've just described beautifully, then you give your daughter or your children, you actually show them how to deal with emotions. You actually show them how to calm yourself down, and that it takes a little while, and that we can go to a better place if we take time to just breathe. So that's actually the most important lesson we can teach our children in the way the world is spinning so quickly today. So by becoming conscious of, I need to parent myself first, we're already teaching before we even parent, just by our behavior. So I think that's a beautiful job. So when Sienna grows up and becomes a mother, hopefully one day, she will know, well, what did my mom do when she was having a hard time? Or even today at school, if she's having a hard time, well, I think I need to breathe. That's what my mom does. So just, we always say that we don't teach our children by the way we say things, but by the way we behave. So this is a beautiful example of that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your contribution to helping us become conscious parents, helping us to manage our energy in the best way possible so that we can bring more love to the world. And it starts with us and right at home. So Gitte Winther, thank you so much. Thank you for the children's meditations that you're sharing with the world. I can't wait to see the new book once it's translated into English. So there you have it, my friends. You can check out her books and see all the beautiful illustrations and even testimonials from people who've been using these techniques all around the world. Just visit roomforreflection.com. Thank you again, Gitte. I wish you a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on Twitter @Dr. Andrea. And did you know I'm on the radio daily? Visit AmericaOutloud.com to download the Talk Radio app.